wonder what happens when you stop pretending and feel? I am Amanda Andrade, founder of Mastering Relationships Academy and author of If You Allow It, You Can Feel It. This is the Journey Unscripted podcast. Real conversations, unscripted moments, and the emotional truth that connect us all. On today's episode, meet Ashlyn Nicole, a poet and PhD trained public health scientist whose work explores love, self worth, and the courage to grow through change. With over a decade of studying trauma, healing, and stress, her writing waves emotional truth with reflection and resilience. Her debut poetry collection, Rose Kissed Promises, is the first in the Growing into Sunflowers trilogy. She is also the founder of the collective where she teaches nervous system regulation and leads workshops in yoga, meditation, and breathwork, finding her own grounding in gratitude, nature, and sun rising by this year. Thank you, Ashley, for being here and welcome.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, today finally we got to do this because we were just talking about it, the behind of scenes for those that are not aware. We are just doing our best with technology itself. And here we are doing the podcast. And I am so excited to hear about your new book that's going to be released. And could you just share with all of us about that?
Yeah, so this is really a surreal moment for me. Rose Kiss Promises is my first poetry book in my trilogy, Growing into Sunflowers. And poetry really started out for me about 15 years ago, and I never would have thought I would actually be releasing this book. But the book in general, this one is focused on roses, and there's 7 chapters, and each chapter dictates a different aspect of falling in love, being in love, etc., through the heartbreak and ultimately a journey back to self and self-love. And that's a little about the book. I'm sure we'll get more into it, but I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have you over here to share this beautiful journey with all of us. And it is really a beautiful journey to self-love. And you mentioned about 14 years ago that you started to writing the poetry. But how in your heart make you to do that? How was it? Like one day you just seated in there and just started to write it? How was it?
It actually kind of was like that. I remember I was in 9th grade and I was really upset about just something going on in my life. I remember I got in the car and I went to drive and it was so foggy and there was all this rain hitting the windshield and I couldn't see. And I just remember feeling like that the weather was mirroring how I felt internally, that there was all these external forces that were being thrown at me and I couldn't discern which way to go and it felt unstoppable, but it was there. And it just felt like all the stuff was spiraling in my head and I just had a piece of paper. So I just wrote how I was feeling. And I never, ever thought I would be a poet. I didn't do creative writing. All my degrees are in science-led fields. And I found out at that time, and it continued throughout the years, that poetry was this way when I was upset or when I didn't understand myself or when I was spiraling or I needed to communicate better. I didn't necessarily understand what was going on. I just had all these feelings in my body or in my mind. And by writing, I actually was able to understand and form a release, kind of like physical activity or different breath work, different exercises. It was this complete release and ability then to communicate, oh, wow, this is how I'm feeling. Now I understand myself better. Now let me talk to you about it. So that was how it started.
And I think it's beautiful because back to today moment and time, you mentioned about teaching others to regulate their nervous system. So back in that time, you did not know how writing poetry would help you out to regulate your nervous system because you were basically going through on the fight or flight response. Because whenever we interface with uncomfortable feelings, I would say uncomfortable emotions, it's more in that space that we are seeking to get regulated. But because we were not taught how to deal with our emotions, basically uncomfortable feelings and the fight or flight, you just found your on in unique way, which nowadays you're going to inspire others. And I think it's just a beautiful and courageous action that you are taking towards your journey because you are opening up your heart to others.
Well, thank you. There's two things you said there I want to touch on. And one is my intention with my trilogy, which I can get into later, but of writing poetry and sharing it is to help other people not feel alone. Because what started as me writing and journal entries and heartbreaks, it turned into there were other traumas or things that happened in my life, and I continued to write. And as I got older, I would notice some of my friends were going through hard times, and so I started sending them some of my poems, and they were like, "Wow, I didn't know you went through this, and I don't feel so alone anymore." And that really sparked something within me that, oh wow, these words could have power, because at first it just felt like maybe I could send it to my best friend or my mom, but this is my heart. These are my feelings. This is my poetry is like ripping off your flesh and your skin. It's just your bare bones. It's everything about you there. And I never thought I could have shared that with the world. And it's been taking me a long time to actually build that courage to have that vulnerability to share this with people, but I really believe in it because a lot of my work in substance use disorders, as I've been a researcher in that field for over a decade now, has really taught me the power of sharing your lived experience allows other people to connect at this higher level. And through that, you can really have this deeper connection. And ultimately, we're all humans that want to be connecting. So it's been a journey and it's taken a lot. And I'm glad to be at the point now that hopefully can reach others.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it's already reaching others because you are very fun and beautiful human being to be around. And I'm having this great opportunity to be around of you and witness your own journey. And it's really like to be in the space that you can feel safe within yourself. So then you can open it up to support other people they are going through in the challenges of their life. And sadly or fortunately, we don't have that structure in our background, in our childhood, because if we had it, we could not be who we are. I do believe on that. So sometimes, or most of the time, it's a way of honoring who we are or honoring the events and everything that happened in the past of our lives so then we can continue moving forward. And for sure it's not a easy task to do it because uncomfortable feelings through events that happen in our life or any other aspects, it's really like it takes courage for us to embrace it, processing and letting go. Because once we are so attached to that idea or to that event or to that uncomfortable feeling or whatever happened, we are not able to really embrace the new opportunities that the universe has for us. And I just would like to ask you, how do you feel or you see that this opportunity that is opening up for you, it's going to take you from, I don't know, where you're thinking that you're going to be or you are open. What is your perspective from now on?
Of where I'll go from these poetry books and publishing them.
Uh-huh. Like intention, manifesting, that kind of thing. Like, have you visualizing something that is more thing on it?
I probably want to get a little more specific on this, but I have a few intentions. And one that I'm putting on my vision board this year is actually to be a New York Times bestseller one day. So I'm throwing that out in the universe. So
Yeah.
that would be a dream, but mainly behind that intention of my words reaching more people. So my intention is to publish one of each of my books each year for the next 3 years. And having this goal really started because next year marks 10 years since my brother passed. And that second book is about grief and addiction. So I really wanted to have this 10-year display of grief and how that changes over time. But I didn't want to start out with a heavier book. I wanted to start out with love and I wanted it to be released on Valentine's Day. So my intention also of, is on Valentine's Day to spread so much self love and that awareness. I'm actually doing a self love, a self ritual workshop at a Salt Cave before one of my book signings. And that's all going to be about making a self love ritual. Like we have morning rituals and before we go to bed rituals. So helping people, what is it that can regulate you and how can you have more grace, more compassion for yourself? And then where are we going to actually fit this in the day? So having those practical take home skills. So really my intention is to keep helping people and to really bridge the work I'm doing through my company of doing a lot of yoga, breath work, education, meditation, these things. So I'm trying to bridge Western and Eastern science, but also different modalities such as poetry.
Yeah, I think it's just beautiful the way that you are combining science with the art of expressing your own emotions and to encourage other people to allow themselves to also experience that. And how in your daily basis have you merged those two works? Because one is science and the other one it's about feelings. How has been for you that experience?
Well, it's a interesting one because I do feel sometimes I have this analytical mind and then I have this emotional aspect that's more rooted within myself. And I try to honor both. And that's something I like to do. And one of my intentions in my book is to be authentic to hard feelings and express those. So I think taking that time of if I am sad or upset or really excited to realize it, to embody it, to sometimes journal about it. Sometimes I go for a walk. Sometimes it might be calling a friend. I think mindfulness can look very different. Maybe if it's a negative thought pattern, I do some breath work or meditation. So I can't say it's this one shoe fits all for me every day because I feel it really depends on my mood. And then with my job, oftentimes I'm more on that analytical aspect of reading articles and doing educational seminars in front of groups of people. So it is a merger. And I think that's really beautiful. And that's actually why I came up with my company's name, the Collective Om. Om in itself represents the West and the East. It is used in Sanskrit, an ancient Indian language that's 3,000 years old, as the first sound of the universe, a vibration, and also a symbol. And so, in one way, there's this Eastern philosophy within Om, and it's used at a lot of classes, the yoga and breath work to start or end a class. And you purse your lips at the end, you make this noise but that also relates to the science because we know when we purse our lips, we release up to 7 or 15-fold more nitric oxide, which vasodilates our blood vessels, allowing us to think more clearly, allowing us to relax, opportunities to engage in our vagal nerve to reduce our stress. So it's really interesting. It does feel like this dynamic and constant interplay between the two, but I think just being authentic to myself and noticing when I need to feel and when I need to put that thinking cap on and listening to that intuition.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get you because we have the both sides of the brain, right? Left and right, which is working towards that balance. And so when that we can have the flexibility to allow the right side of the brain to work or even like the left side of the brain and merge that because it's really like a self-thought process or like whenever we ask somebody else helps for us to navigate it on that and as we keep evolving as a species human beings because we are emotional and we are social beings that make us that unique process of just be in the present moment to experience all of the aspects of life itself. And whenever you are combining those two words, the Eastern and Western medicine, and combining them, and just like, okay, we all about that. And like the frequency and the intention that we made, and like the entire holistic aspect of body, mind, and awareness and consciousness, and really like adjusting to who we are because basically it's just experience ourselves in a different way, in a different aspects through our emotional spectrum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because just like whenever you mention about like being authentic, right? So what was the hardest part for you to allow yourself to be authentic in your journey?
With poetry or my life journey?
Your life journey because what leads you to be to the poetry journey was you just like expressing yourself to yourself first, but and then to allow yourself to be who you are and then be authentic with others. First with yourself, but and then with others. So it's basically in life in general.
That's quite a question. One of the first things that comes to mind is being able to let go and release the word should. I've been really working on that within my vocabulary. I spent, almost 15 years between all my higher levels of education and working as a postdoctoral researcher and a faculty when I was living in Europe. And it just felt like so much energy. A lot of faculty and mentors had trained me, and I spent all this time. And it felt like I should keep doing that. And it was also the easier path. I didn't have any friends that wrote poetry. I didn't have anyone that worked in a holistic field. All of my friends just said, well, just get another postdoc, just stay in the same lane. So for me, it was really challenging to release and to let the idea of change as far as a career trajectory come in, because I've been open to change as far as relationships or moving different places and had welcomed that in. But it was very scary. So I had to really embrace my purpose and my skills. And I did that through some vision board events that I did. And I realized those things weren't being honored in my life, and that I deserved as a person to have those be honored. And therefore, I need to switch my job and my role, even if I have no clue where I would live in the world, what kind of job that would be, or what my next steps were, that I, as a human being, had that self worth and that self love and deserve that. And I do feel actually writing poetry helped me realize that. So it's a really interesting interplay, but that's one of the challenges I really went through, was letting go of that career, letting go of all that. But in being flexible enough to shift, I actually still use some of the education. It's just in a different way. And now it feels meaningful because in all my work, my intention always was to help people in the theme of prevention with trauma, substance use, and mental health. And now I actually feel I'm able to make that bigger difference. So my intention's still the same and it's always been there. But because I let go of the control of where I needed to go and what I thought, and I just said, instead of pushing, I'm going to pause and I'm going to follow frequencies. I'm going to follow the energies. I'm going to follow any activity, any person that's leading me in that direction where I feel wholesome, where I feel complete, where I feel authentic. And I'm just going to let that be a journey. And so it was a big lesson.
Yeah, I can relate it to that also because letting go control, it's a very hard thing to do it because letting go control, it's really trusting, trusting the process, trusting the unknown. And it is a really hard task to do it because we sometimes, or most of the time, it just depends from each person. We are so mind identified that we don't want to let it go the idea of our identity, that we are created in this way, we are raised in this way, we have to be in this way. And really like deprogram your subconscious mind, your entire being that is being ontological, like I am this, I am like that, and then I'm not shifting. And what I found very inspiring from what you just shared with us, it's about the vision board. So seems like a vision board has a very affect part of your journey or really a motivation for you. Can you just expanding on that so this way people can also understand the science behind of the vision board and the emotional part of manifesting that?
Well, there's a lot in there. So, as far as kind of where I was at in my life when I made this big transition, I was living in Dublin, Ireland as a faculty and a professor. And I wasn't the happiest in my job, nor in my environment, nor in my relationship, but I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I made this vision board and it had the word happiness in the center, and it had a mosaic sunshine that was going through, and I had a family on there because I miss being living abroad and being far away from families. I won't go into all the details, but pretty much everything I put on my vision board is in my current life now. And I realized
Wow.
when I was in Dublin that, I'm working in a job behind a computer, but I'm a people person. I'm powered by the sun, but I'm living somewhere where it's gray every day and rainy. And I'm staying in a job and a job and a relationship that aren't appreciating me and they're draining me. And even though I pushed and we're trying to make it work and I'm trying, this job is on paper a dream job and I was 10 years younger than any of my colleagues. It just wasn't working, even though from the outside it seemed like the dream for me. And so, a little bit about the science of manifesting and making vision boards is when, first of all, when we sit down to be intentional and put something on a board, we're already kind of priming our brain. It's called cognitive priming to look for that opportunity again. So you could think of this in the fact of, if we have any Americans here from the South, of Chick-fil-A, that maybe you haven't even thought about it. And then it's Sunday and all of a sudden someone says, I really want Chick-fil-A, and they're shut. And now you're driving and all you notice is Chick-fil-A billboards. It's not that more billboards arrived, it's just that you primed your brain to be aware of it. And that's another similarity of maybe if you've ever redecorated your house or gotten into another field of study and all of a sudden you're a landscaper and now you see every tree while you're driving on the road. So if we can use that way our brain works to program it to see possibilities, to see the vision, then we're going to be looking for those chances. We're going to notice, oh, in the newspaper or this email, there's this opportunity. But part of that is taking the time to have the vision. So slowing down, what is it that I want? So that then when we see it, we can do it. And another part is the self efficacy, the belief in oneself to complete a task. So if you don't believe you're capable or worthy of this thing, you're going to vibrate at a different frequency, energy, the law of attraction, and you're going to hold yourself back. Maybe that's because you don't physically apply for the job because you don't think you'll get it. And maybe you don't even notice it because you're like, oh, I could never date someone that looks like this, or I can never live in this country because I can never figure out how to speak a language, or whatever it is. You hold yourself back so you don't take any of the actions to even go that way. And also, a big part is of visualization and the belief within yourself is actually feeling what's already happened. So imagining that job, that relationship, that health goal, whatever it is. So how is it going to feel when I'm at my best? And where am I going to be? And really engaging those senses actually changes your physiology. It allows different neurotransmitters, different hormones to be released, and your brain doesn't know what's real and what's fake, and it's going to send those hormones and neurotransmitters out as if you're already there. So if you're dreaming and you're visualizing and you're believing in this thing, you're programming your body to say, oh, I'm healthy, I'm able, I don't have injuries, I'm not going to get sick. And then your body thinks that, and it continues to work that way. So a lot of this is actually using our brains and our neuroscience just to help us out. So that's some of it. I know I rambled a lot. I could talk more, but it's a little about vision boarding.
I think it's beautiful because you really expand on the subject, so this way people can understand better, because they all talk about like the law of attraction and the book The Secret, and but nobody's really explaining how to manifest that. And you just had it that opening, so then we can just understand and start to be open for that. I typically, whenever I work with my clients with hypnosis, it's really about like shifting the belief systems that they have about themselves. Because what happened about the event in their life in the past, right? It's about the perception that they have about the event, not the event itself. So what we're working through, it's just to shift the perception that you have about the event. It's the self-perception that you are worthy. You are a worthy woman, deserving of it, whatever you are seeking for it. And that is also the opportunity that you open for your life as well. Just like you just mentioned, if you don't think that you are capable, you're not going to manifest anything in your life, because first you need to be the one to believe in it. And I totally understand. And then people are going to be like, oh, it's easy to say than done. And then it's just like, oh, how can I feel that I am a millionaire if I am not having like no money in my bank account? Because the manifestation of that, it's about how you feel. If you feel like a millionaire, like bringing into your body the feelings, how that looks like for you, because for everybody is a little different, right? So you just bringing into to your mind eyes, and then just like you say, the subconscious mind doesn't know what is fiction and what is reality. And once you bring in that visualization, you are able to anchor in your body. And then, just like you say, you're going to be open for like the signals the universe is bringing to you, the opportunities. And typically, what I say also to my clients and for everybody and for myself as well. And I just need to open the space for that. So basically, the best dynamic that I always offer is just like, okay, because I love garden, right? So whenever I'm going to do a garden, what do I need to do it? I need to clean the soil first. So pulling up the weeds and just make that soil a healthy soil for me to put the seeds. So basically, you need to first clean your belief systems about yourself. Cleaning that, like, if I thinking that I am not worthy, I need to start to shifting that belief system and shifting that. I'm able just, okay, now everything is clean and I'm opening up the space for me to receive what I deserve. It's really a process
Sure.
throughout life because that will not change from like one night to another. And so if I'm not like really embodying it, really like shifting like my mindset, because first comes from the thoughts, at least from my experience, right? Because the thoughts are the desire. Okay, I do have the desire of like changing my diet. So from now on, what do I need to do it or see or visualize? I need to start seeing how healthy people they do with their diet or how it is the best way for me to adjust that diet from what my body needs. So everything I do believe that it started from the mindset perspective. And then we're going to adjust. And it's not gonna be a linear journey, my dear people. It's going to be like a roller coaster.
That's true.
And please go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say some of unpacking some of what you're saying is really talks about it seems like some of these childhood traumas or adverse experiences that reframe the way we're thinking. So really to shift these beliefs, sometimes you really have to go deep. But to even go deep, you have to slow down to know what you need to go deep about. So it can be this whole process that it can be hard to slow down and know where to start. Yeah, so I think it's always great picking your brain on all your hypnosis work and seeing how it aligns and how it's a little different, but all similar. If it seems like most things come from our mindset, and then things can follow.
Yeah, because for me, the experience that I have with hypnosis, right? That's the reason that I also became a hypnotherapist, is just how can we shift the perception that we have about reality, which is impacting belief systems. And how do I reframe or how do I reprogram my subconscious mind from the ontological perspective way? Because the way that I speak with myself, it's the way that I name it myself. Like, let's say, I don't deserve. So ontologically, I'm saying that I don't deserve. So what do I need to do in order for me to shift that I do deserve? And so it's really like shifting the brain waves and really shifting the perception that you have about the fact. Like that's why for me, whenever we are having sessions and all of that, right? We don't change the event. I'm not gonna get back to the past and I'm not gonna change the fact that my father he abandoned and reject myself. I cannot. But I can shift the perception that I have about that event, that he did not have the source that he needed that time to keep going in life or like just to take a responsibility or ownership, whatever. But also perhaps he did not have that from his parents as well. And I did not know that. So I really need to release the self perception that I have about that event. And for that, it's really like self forgiveness and understanding and getting connected with the flow of life, right? What life means, what I'm here for it. And so typically I say that the only thing that we are sure about life, that we're all gonna die physically and pay taxes every year.
I
So,
was yeah.
oh yeah, every April 15th, your uncle's son, it's waiting for you, babe. And so knowing that, like, okay, if my body dying, who am I? what is consciousness? What is the spirit? What is soul? Is life is about it waking up, going to work, stress myself, and just come back, and that's it. So it have to be something else, and for that we need to use our critical thinking. So being this space that I believe that me and you and others are in this moment now to support and to serve humanity, I think is just beautiful. And also because we've been doing that for ourselves. Because if we don't do that for ourselves, we are not able to hold a space for somebody else have their own transformation.
Totally agree with everything you said. I'm really glad you brought up this and really went into the shifting of perspective because that's actually why my trilogy is called Growing into Sunflowers, is because sunflowers are rooted. They're rooted in their self establishment. They know who they are, what their boundaries are, and their roots don't change, but the top does. Their perception shifts. They find the sunlight, they find a different way to review a scenario. And ultimately, that's what a lot of my poetry has helped me do. And even I don't look at exes as, oh, this person was horrible or they did this thing to me. It's, "Oh, this person was a mirror of who I was at that time, of what I allowed to happen to me or the mistakes I made as well." And thank goodness I can now reframe this and say, without this person, what lesson would I have not have learned and how has that redirected me? Because now I know I need to put myself first. So now I can set boundaries. And because I set boundaries, now I got this job. And it's really this ripple effect. Or because I set better boundaries, now I had more time for myself to pursue these things. So instead of focusing on the negative that, oh, this person hurt me or this was painful, which is in there because it is authentic to how I felt, the whole
Mhm.
point of the arch is to have this gold thread, this light coming through each book that ends in how is the perception shifted in time and how what does that really mean? And how can we take something that's tragic, that's devastating, that's heartbreaking, that's uncomfortable, maybe that I messed up on or someone else did, but how can I use this as a learning experience? How can this redirect me or help other people? So that's a big overarching theme in my book. So it's really interesting that came up talking about the hypnosis and that intersection of without realizing it, what I was doing and how therapeutic actually poetry can be.
Absolutely. And I mean, I found fascinated how all of us, in each of us, we have our own and individual journey, but we are meeting in the middle line to sharing what is being effective to us and for us. And just like now, you had it like poetry being effective for you whenever you were going through in your hard moments and times. And so it's different for me that was just like, let's say, to listen to others because I really enjoy listening to other people just to be there for them because it's something that it's been missing nowadays to our society. It's people to be in the present moment because they always about the tomorrow. What I need to do it. It's just that tick of dopamine, what is else? And okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. And what is avoiding you to be in the present moment? It really like connecting with who you are. But because people are, how to say that, is in the transition of this moment in time of humanity, it's hard to make that space to connect with themselves. So then it's just like the ripple effect about like here, 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 and not being here in the body present. So for me, it was and it is still a really great gift to be present for people, to listen to them, because that bring me joy. And so in your case was just to just translate your feelings into to a poetry so then you can share with others. So actually we all have our own in unique way and our divine gifts that we can share with one and another because really like the exchange on values, right? It's about like the gifts that I have that you have, and we can come along together and we can share that. And that is also one of the reasons that we got so connected because we came from a different culture background, And like I share with you, I never thought that I couldn't be this intimate with some American girls because it was really hard for me to connect on that level because it's culturally totally different. But and then the first time that we met each other at the beach, that you were guiding a yoga session, and then I found your inner being so beautiful. And then I stay, we start talking, and here we are nowadays with this beautiful friendship, and which I'm very grateful for it. It's really to the point like how much we are open to connect, how much that we are just in the present moment for each other. And it is really a gift. And I just would like to invite our audience just to be present for themselves. And if I can give advice or share advice, be selfish to the point that you're going to give yourself some self love, just like you were just inviting people, Ashley, just to really like open that space to experience self love as was for you at the beginning of your journey. It really is something that thinking about it, if we all are selfish about like having self love for myself and not looking for validation, right? So if I'm full of self love, I'm going to share with others, and I'm not waiting or expecting that others will fulfill my needs because I already have done that to myself. Thinking about it, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and even if you knew what your needs were, then it would be easier and quicker in a relationship, or maybe you wouldn't even date the person because you already know this is my need and they're not fulfilling it, or I'm not going to go for this job because this person treated me this way and I deserve to have that respect. And so, so much of what I've learned too of having that foundation. Where do I want to go? What holds me back? But what are my shadows? What are those dark parts of me? And what supports me and what holds me back? All these things really help us be rooted so we can be a better person for others. Cause I often find it's disconnected people trying to talk to other disconnected people. And I don't like to believe that people have this negative intention that they want to do harm. I think people are just so busy and they're so quick and they're so disconnected from themselves that they unintentionally hurt others. And so I think my advice to anyone listening is if you can allow yourself to slow down and invite that self love, like Amanda was mentioning, really anything's possible for you and it's what you deserve. And ultimately, everything's going to be happier and more aligned. And when you're aligned with yourself, better things can unfold. So it's a really interesting journey to see how that ripples. And I think, as you were saying too, for me, it's been poetry, and for you, it's been your voice. And I would encourage listeners as well to really kind of question, what is my gift? Or what's something that's not being honored? And really, just this journey for me, I never ever thought I would share this. And I never thought I was good, and having to break down those walls and be open enough to even share it with people to get the feedback, because we're our worst critics and we're our worst enemies, and we overthink, we overanalyze, and then we don't do because of perfectionism, and it steals the joy even when we do because we only notice what we did wrong. And what would that look like if we just said, I'm doing my best and this is something I'm good at, so I want to pursue it. Whether it makes money or does this for my career, it's just because it makes me happy.
Yes, yes, totally yes. And nowadays, I'm very grateful to be where I am at, to doing what I love and creating this space like podcasts to connect with like minded people just like you, to be in a space of like sharing, being vulnerable, because over here we're just basically sharing our journey, which is just like to encourage people to do the same for themselves. It's not about others, it's about you. It's about the way that you love yourself, that you accept yourself, and really like letting go control of like the expectations of like society, parents, anybody around of you. It's just being honest for your own desires. And that is just so uplifting, to be in a space that you're just happy to do what you're doing, that you're exercising your brain skill sets, cognitive systems, and cognitive skills for you to keep just like having that fulfillment and not need no external help or external we are just sharing because comes back to the point that if I am sharing myself with some friends, you or anybody that comes with my life, because I'm choosing to do that, because it's a space of like we do deserve to be in that moment of giving and receiving, because have to be an exchange of values of giving and receiving, because it's the way that we keep evolving, we keep in growing, we keep in serving humanity. And I would love to ask you about, okay, that's the poetry, it's about your feelings, it's about like sharing your heart with others, but now are you currently share your heart with someone? How has been your love life, if you'd like to share that with us?
Do you want the whole story? I don't know how long we have, or you want the current?
We have a few minutes. And just share what feels comfortable for you and right for you.
Yeah, so I think like probably all of us, we all have different stories and experiences. One thing that's always been true and authentic to myself is especially after I turned about 18 or so, I was very open to new experiences. And so I have, relationships where someone was a pilot, and on a second date, we went to Europe. And then a month later, we were in Thailand and Australia and around the world. I've met a few relationships. I was with someone for 6 years that I happened to meet when I was on a solo trip in Spain. And we had a long distance relationship between Europe and the United States. And I met someone on a solo trip and ended up falling in love with someone and moving to another country. So I've learned languages. I've moved my life around love. I'm a very emotional person, and it's always felt I have to honor that.
I think you're a Cancer.
Yes, I am. And so it's been interesting, that logic brain and the emotional brain, because I've had quite a few stories. I've traveled the world for love, with love, and I've also had a lot of heartbreak, a lot of devastation, a lot of things I didn't see coming. A lot of times I've been cheated on, a lot of different things. We could get into all the details. But it's interesting because I am currently taken and in a very happy relationship. It's new, it's a
Oh,
year old,
congratulations.
but it's something that was interesting. Before I met this person, I've never been a person that's been on dating apps, so it's just never my thing, because I feel very much the energy is different when you meet someone in person. And I wasn't wanting to even meet someone because I wanted to focus on my business, and I had been living in Europe for 4 years, and I just came to the United States. And so I was going through quite a few transitions, and there was about 10 people that asked me on dates, and I turned them all down because I was so established after my last relationship and really having to put myself first. Because my last relationship, I walked away from someone I was very in love with because I deserved more. And that was one of the hardest lessons I've ever had, that sometimes love is not enough. Because I used to think the fairy tale is if you love someone, you can make it work. But what do you do when two people are in love and two people are trying and it's not working? You're not compatible or things aren't aligning. So I learned a lot from that last serious relationship I was in. And that really brought me to be more established in what I need. And so when all these people were asking me out, in the past, I noticed a past me would have said yes. Maybe I would have dated them for a couple months, or it would have been this whole dramatic thing because they weren't aligned. But from those experiences and taking the time alone to reflect on them allowed me to be able to say no, 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 to the point when I actually was able to meet someone that was aligned with everything. It's been a very fruitful relationship and the most emotional intimacy I've ever had, where we are currently and often talking about our needs, our values, and communicating clearly. Hey, having those hard conversations of, well, actually, this really disappointed me, and I thought we were going to do this. And instead of holding it in and letting things erupt, just being raw, being truthful, because at the end of the day, two people want to come together and they want to be happy. Instead of the question, how can I make you happy? I often ask, how can I support your happiness? Because I'm just part of this journey. I'm part of it with you. And if I understand how I can fit in, but knowing I can't make you happy, because you have to have that happiness within yourself. And I've definitely been in relationships that I was the person's happiness, and it's unfair and it's unequal, and you're on a pedestal and it's not right. And so that's a little about my love life. I could get into a lot of those details now of all the stories, but it's ultimately, I've learned so many lessons. I met so many people And I have nothing but overfilling gratitude actually for all my exes that I met and had the opportunity to share time with and life with that have taught me so many lessons and helped me grow. And I wish nothing but the best for all of them and that they are continuing on their growing journey as well.
Beautiful. That well said. Totally. I mean, that's just beautiful to witness your maturity throughout this journey, right? Because it's really about honoring everybody that has been through in our lives. And even if something did not work out, because that did not work out for you to be in here as right now. So it was a lesson, it was an experience for you to keep moving forward. And because you're honoring that and you're embracing who you are, authentically, you are able to be open to receive the love that you are in now. So it's really like inviting me for whoever it's listen to us to be your authentic self, really embrace who you are, really like be happy within you, with you, because joy comes within and not expecting, like you were saying, expecting that your partner, your parents, your brothers and sisters will make you happy, because that is not the formula. You gotta first be happy with yourself so then you can share your happiness with others. And I think it's just like beautiful that you are in a place that you can just know what your needs are and you can share what makes you feel upset, and from that uncomfortable conversation you guys can move forward. And so it is the way actually for all of us, for any kind of relationship, not only romantic but friendship with our parents, and really like respecting the space, right? Okay, if I am a daughter, I'm going to speak with my mom with respect, but accepting her choices. Same with my father, same with my siblings. I'm gonna still express for them. I'm okay, that got back. I'm gonna still express for them the way that make me feel, because I'm honoring myself. But and then I gotta to release, gotta to let it go and give it to God or whatever you believe it. And once you do that and release, and then you keep moving forward, magic happens in life. And just like you're saying, you are having the best emotional intimacy relationship in your life now. But in order for you to experience this now, you have to go through in everything in the past for you to be in this space. And I think it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and part of my vision board and when I left my country and life and relationship and job, everything in Ireland was just saying I deserve more. Like I know I deserve more on all of these aspects and believing in it and that it could be. And I can definitely say I've never been treated so well of just not feeling like a second choice, not wondering if someone really cares or if you're their number one, just seeing it through the actions, having actions and words align. And so I really believe what you manifest and what you put out there comes, especially if you know that. But you really have to slow down to know what you want and what you need and what's not working in the relationship. And once you can see that, you can see those patterns of, okay, why do I keep being in relationships with people that aren't prioritizing me or that don't communicate? Or is that because I'm exhibiting that? Or am I allowing that? I don't have this boundary. So taking that time to analyze whether it's friendships, relationships, jobs, what are these patterns that you're seeing in your life that you don't like? What do you want to stop doing, continue doing, and start doing? Just those simple three questions can lead so much growth.
Absolutely. I would say that people are our mirror, like relationship, like if I'm feeling bothered with the behaviors or action, something for me to take a look inside, make some reflection. Why I got triggered, because the way that they say that to me, why I got triggered from this. What it's within me that I still need to acknowledge. Just like we just I started at the beginning of the program, that what part of me I've been neglecting, what part of me I am not acknowledging or honoring. It always come back from that. And as we getting back as we're getting to the end of our podcast, I would just like to say thank you so much for your time and presence and your journey. I really honor who you are. And I'm very grateful to be in this space of getting to know you and expanding the love for you, your family, and everybody around of you. And as right now, I would like you to share with us one poetry that is going to be displayed in every outdoors, everybody's cell phones. That is just like now it's 5 o'clock and we got Ashlyn Schwartz poetry in my phone. What would be that message for us?
An actual poem or the message?
Poem or message? Anything that comes from your heart.
I guess I'll just go what's on my back cover of my book here.
Yeah.
I think for this first book, the message that we've been talking today is so much about self-love. And this book is called Rose Kiss Promises because roses, I think, mimic love a lot. And the fact that you start out in this rosebud and it's really fragrant and beautiful and it expands into this blossom. You get to know people on deeper levels. And sometimes it becomes more beautiful the more you see. And sometimes some of the petals start to fall off in the wind and you're questioning things. And sometimes there's really big thorns. And ultimately, this book, the journey ends that a real garden of roses is only grown once you have that self love. And once you love yourself, then you can give that love out to others. So, this poem is actually called Rose Kiss Promises, and it's the last poem in the book. And it's the tenderest present was never the rose you left me, nor the kisses of forever you promised, but the garden I grew all on my own.
Oh, wow, I fall in love with that. Oh, how beautiful. And for whoever's listened to us, I invite you to go on her website, her pages, and visit her. And congratulations her for her job and give her some beautiful energy and love because you have given yourself some self-love. So go over there, share your thoughts and feelings with Ashley. I'm pretty sure that she's going to be getting back to you with love and compassion. And for more info, just access the bio that we're going to attach on there. So once and again, thank you so much, Ashley, for being here. And we are looking forward for the next books.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor, and I appreciate what you're doing here with your podcast.
Thank you.